Association of Counties and the Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance. I am Stephen Aquario, the Executive Director of the New York State Association of Counties. We are pleased today to be presenting to you updates on New York's renewable energy portfolio. In particular, the Public Service Commission has recently expanded the state's renewable portfolio standard goal to approximately 30% by 2015. Renewable resources, in particular, include both solar and hydroelectricity. We are pleased today to bring to you two different programs that have been sponsored by and brought to you through MEGA, New York's Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance. This program has also been made possible by a net metering bill sponsored by the New York State Legislature and passed by Governor Cuomo. Hydropower in New York, in particular, New York is the largest hydroelectric power producer east of the Rocky Mountains and is fourth in the nation in the generation of electricity from hydropower. With respect to solar, New York State's solar industry is ranked number 5 nationally right now, and through the implementation of the New York Sun Initiative, through Governor Cuomo's efforts, solar power is ready to soar. We're very pleased to present MEGA's newest program that provides renewable energy options to municipalities. And with me here today to discuss this program, I'd like to first introduce Gordon Boyd, a MEGA consultant. Gordon?
Thank you, Steve, and thanks to NYSAC for putting this webinar together. We're very excited about this new renewable energy program, and we appreciate our partnership with NYSAC and the ability that you're giving us to get the word out to many of the local governments around New York State. For those that are not familiar with MEGA, MEGA was begun in the late 1990s as a purchasing consortium for electricity and natural gas. We go out to public bid to identify the best prices for these commodities. We've been doing this now for more than 15 years, and we have successfully saved money for more than 250 municipalities, and also, for the most part, also stabilized their price of energy. This new program involving hydro and solar opportunities has just been introduced, and that's the purpose of today's webinar. We also went out and did a public procurement to make this approach available to municipalities, and we think that not only is it important from an environmental point of view to expand the state's resources in solar and hydroelectric power, but it will also offer a very compelling economic case to local governments that are concerned about volatility in energy markets. We've experienced a very volatile and expensive winter period just now, and I think the economic case for this program is very strong, and we'll get into that in more detail as we go forward. Back to you, Steve.
Thank you, Gordon. At this point in time, I'd like to recognize Omai Elpik, the Director of Power Marketing for Gravity Renewables, with information about MEGA's hydro power option. Omai?
Thank you, Steve. I'd like to share with you a little bit about Gravity Renewables and our work in New York and also up and down the eastern seaboard. Next slide, please. Gravity was founded in 2010 as a consultancy representing municipalities and higher ed institutions. We're headquartered in Boulder, Colorado, and about 2 years ago, in response to needs of our clients, we started raising money specifically to fund and capitalize projects with municipalities and higher ed institutions. To date, we've completed 3 rounds of private equity funding. All of that is committed to financing and acquiring and developing the projects that we'll be discussing with MEGA members. We've got 11 projects currently in the U.S. totaling 31 megawatts, and 2 of those projects are actually located in New York State, which we'll talk about in a few moments. An important part of our financial structure is that our projects do not require state or federal incentives or grant funding, and that allows us to execute and move forward with project development at a much more rapid scale than other technologies. Next slide, please. This map here shows some of the projects that we're working on across the state. One of the important things from our perspective is that we create a diversity in the types of projects that we're involved in. And so part of that is diversity in size and structure, but geographic diversity is also important. Next slide, please. In New York State, as mentioned earlier, New York State has some of the highest concentration of low-impact small hydro facilities. These are typically projects that are smaller than 2 megawatts in capacity. Importantly, they're existing licensed dams that are already operating, normally in a mode called run-of-river operation, which is considered to have the lowest environmental impact of any of the traditional hydro methods of operation. Can you please advance through the slide? So hydro has many benefits. The fact that it's already been built means that it's already part of New York's historic infrastructure, and so the risks associated with permitting and construction don't exist. They're also considered some of the highest efficiency renewable energy sources. They've been built to last decades, and many projects, in fact, have been around for approaching 100 years. As many of us know, particularly in upstate New York, hydro is the historic community cornerstone, the real driver of the economic development over the last 100 years. And so this is an opportunity for communities in partnership with Mega and Gravity to revitalize these historic plants and bring them back to play the role of an economic driver. So there are well over 100 existing plants in New York State. Many of them are distressed, and what that means is that current owners have not had access to capital because of volatile electricity markets, unknown revenue streams, damage from hurricanes. But the one common piece is that they all need capital, and what Gravity does is we provide that capital in long-term ownership, operation, and maintenance. But we do that because we develop a long-term commitment with municipalities and higher ed institutions, such as Mega members, that agree to purchase the electricity and output from these plants over a long term, between 15 and 20 years. It's that commitment that allows us to justify the acquisition and the capital investments in these projects. Next slide, please. This map here shows many of the projects that we've already vetted and conducted due diligence on that might be a good match for Mega members. And you can see that there are opportunities all over the state, and we look forward to discussing specific opportunities with Mega members as a next step. Next slide, please. This is a project that we recently completed. This is in the Hudson River Valley, just south of Albany, in Stuyvesant, New York. This is an exciting project because it's the first college hydro project, if not in New York, in the entire country. And so this project was done with in partnership with a private college in upstate New York. It's about 1 megawatt in size and produces over 4 million kilowatt hours of electricity each year. The challenge this project faced was that it had sustained significant damage during one of the recent hurricanes and had been operating at a fraction of its design capacity. The commitment from the private college, in the same way that we'll be looking for commitment for mega members, allowed us to acquire the site and refurbish it. And as an added benefit, this school is going to have an on-site classroom and use it as part of a satellite program for their environmental studies program. Next slide, please. This is another project that Gravity owns and operates that's located down near Poughkeepsie, New York. Again, it's about 1 megawatt. It's considered small, low-impact hydro. After we refurbish the project and upgrade the controls and conduct a thorough rebuild, this project will be generating close to 3 million kilowatt hours per year, and will become once again an important part of the local energy infrastructure. Next slide, please. So for the mega hydroelectric program, a couple of the key takeaway points are that these projects are completely funded. There are no grants necessary or investment tax credits. So Gravity has pre-raised all the capital necessary to acquire and operate these plants on behalf of a mega member. They're also completely, they're already constructed and completely permitted, and so that further accelerates the development process. The goal, of course, is to help mega members reduce and stabilize their energy costs, and most of these projects in New York State are both eligible for this program and will certainly help reduce mega members' electricity expense. I think importantly, it's important us to remember that these projects are an integral part of the local community. The benefits, the economic benefits, go far beyond just the direct benefits that a mega member might receive in terms of savings and stabilizing energy costs. There is also the jobs. Each one of these projects employs a minimum of 1 full-time employee. They're an important part of the tax basis, and they also, ownership and operation also contribute to the local economic development in the form of contracts with electricians and civil engineers and so on. And then finally, this is an opportunity for communities to receive clean, renewable, and local energy. Next slide. So at this point, I'll hand the microphone back to Steve.
Let me thank Omai Elpik, the Director of Power Marketing for Gravity Renewables, for describing the importance and, importantly, the opportunities that lie ahead for New York's local governments to be looking into hydropower. And according to the State Department of Environmental Conservation, hydropower is among the most cost-effective of all electricity sources because its, quote, fuel, end quote, is flowing water, is local, as Omai has indicated, and is replenished whenever it rains or snows. The price of hydroelectricity usually remains stable even as markets for other fuels can fluctuate. Let me conclude by saying that adding generation equipment to existing dams, as was discussed by Omai all across the state that are now without hydropower, is indeed a new possibility for New York's county governments. This will increase New York's total generation capacity with minimal environmental impact. Many existing flood control or water management dams would require only a modest investment in generation equipment to become small hydro generators. Next, we're going to hear from Dan Leary, the Senior Project Development Manager from Solar City Corporation, to explain about MEGA's solar program. Dan, are you with us?
Yes, thank you, Steve. Hi, everyone. I'd like to just take a few slides to give you an overview of who Solar City is and some of our services, as well as the contractual relationship of this program, under which is a power purchase agreement, and then a snapshot of what's available from a incentive standpoint from New York State. So just on our first slide here, you see that Solar City is a national solar integrator and solar provider. We have upwards to 92,000 customers across all of our market segments, which include residential, commercial, both private and public sector, as well as municipal government. In New York State, we have 3 offices currently with over 100 employees that are located in the state and doing projects for both residential and commercial and municipal clients. Like Gravity, Solar City has already raised all the capital and funds to deploy our projects and to hire the labor that will install and own and operate. And to date, we have upward to $3 billion in project value to deploy projects across all of the markets that we work in. We're a public company, so there's more information that's readily available to anyone who's interested in finding out more about Solar City, some of our services, and some of our clients. Next slide, please. Solar City is a fully integrated solar provider. Outside of manufacturing the actual hardware and the equipment that goes in the field or on your rooftop, such as the solar modules, we handle everything beyond that. So we'll work with you during the preliminary stages of development. We've already raised all the capital to finance the projects. Again, under this contractual relationship, there's no money out of the pocket of the mega member. You simply agree to buy energy at a discounted rate for a period of 15 to 20 years, and Solar City will do all the capital funding for the project and own and operate it throughout the life of that contract. We have all our in-house engineering and then have project managers and construction managers who hire local labor and trades to install our project. Next slide, please. These next 3 slides are just a snapshot of some of the operational expertise that we have across all our markets, but specifically in New York State. You know, with the amount of projects that we're doing on a monthly basis, Solar City has had to make sure that we have tight processes and controls in place. Next slide, please. Our in-house engineers have worked with thousands of building departments across the country and actually in New York State too, because of our residential footprint and our already large portfolio of commercial and municipal customers. So we're familiar with all the relevant and up-to-date building and electrical codes. Next slide, please. Solar City owns the equipment and the asset. You as a partner in the agreement are simply hosting the system, so you give us access to either rooftops or available ground space that you may otherwise not be using. But Solar City, as the owner of the system, is now responsible for maintaining all the warranties and keeping up all the maintenance throughout the life of the contract. So if there are any kind of issues throughout the project with operational of the modules or the inverters that go along with it, or communications with the local utility, Solar City will be the main point of contact and responsible for handling all of that, whether it is just resources being deployed to the site or correctional maintenance and materials. That's all something that Solar City handles, and the county or the school district or town is not exposed to. Next slide, please. One thing that you as a mega member and a partner in the solar agreement will be provided is access to how the system is actually performing via password protected access either on your laptop, desktop computer, or smart tablet or phone. You'll be able to download access to how the system is performing on a 15-minute interval basis. Be able to look at how the system is performed on that specific day, that month, or over the course of the year. Next slide, please. So getting into how we contractually work with one another, it's called a power purchase agreement. And under this, again, it's a pre-installation. Solar City has raised the capital to procure the materials, design the system, and hire the labor to install it. Again, the mega member is there simply with no cost out of pocket to just buy the energy after we get it up and running and approved to generate. Part of the power purchase agreement, one thing that we extend is a energy performance guarantee. You're relying on SolarCity to provide a certain level of energy on an annual basis throughout the life of the contract, and there are certain financial expectations and savings that go along with that, and we want to ensure that you realize those. And so we afford our customers a 100% energy performance guarantee throughout the life of our agreement to make sure that our system meets your expectations and keeps our maintenance and operations teams motivated to make sure that this system performs as expected, if not better. Next slide, please. Here's just some of the broad outline of what a power purchase agreement is and how the contract will be established. Again, SolarCity is the owner and operator and is responsible for installing the system. There's no upfront cost to the mega member. Thereby, after we get it up and operational, you simply receive a utility bill, essentially, from SolarCity that's supplementing what you would otherwise be paying from your local utility or your mega third-party supplier. Again, we're reducing electricity costs, and under a power purchase agreement, you have the ability to lock in for a certain portion of your energy, whether that's 25% or more, a fixed price of a known portion of your energy from day one through the end of the contract. You'll know exactly what that price will be and how much energy is expected to be produced. And again, with our 100% performance guarantee, we will stand behind making sure that that system performs as you expect. At the end of a power purchase agreement, you have three options. You can renew the agreement and continue buying electricity. You can purchase the system and take ownership of it. Solar projects readily have an expected life of 35 to 40 years of production, and our contracts are typically 15 or 20 years only. Or your third option is to simply have SolarCity remove it at our cost. Next slide, please. So just a quick snapshot on what New York State affords any kind of solar project, whether that's kind of a small project at a school district or a large project with a county. Everything is being driven off of what Steve mentioned at the start of the conference, the Renewable Portfolio Standard. So on all utility bills, there's a societal benefit charge or an RPS charge that you'll see, which is a fraction of a penny that accrues across any ratepayer. This builds up funds at the state level, which then are auctioned off for any project, whether it's a private customer or a public customer that wants to build a project. This is administered by NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, under the guise of the New York Sun Initiative, which Governor Cuomo put into place. The goal of the program is to allocate upwards to $100 million in funding for projects across the state over 2 to 3 auctions each year. Again, this is a competitive application process, but SolarCity has experience, and we've participated in every auction to date, and we'll handle 100% of the paperwork. All that is required by the mega member is a non-binding letter of intent to move forward with the project if we so are afforded an incentive, and then access to some of your utility bills. Some of the technical aspects of New York State's solar policy is the concept of net metering, whereby if we produce more than you need, you actually send energy back out to the grid and get retail credit value for that on your next month's utility bill. There's also what this program is taking advantage of, a concept called remote net metering, whereby if your facilities do not lend themselves to a viable solar project, whether it's on your rooftop or you don't have available land adjacent to your energy needs, whether that's buildings or warehouses or wastewater treatment plants, we can build a project remotely in your utility service territory and remotely offset your utility bills. If you go to the next slide, here's a kind of a schematic of what I'm talking about. At the top of the slide, you see what we call a traditional behind-the-meter model, whereby we build solar where it's needed at the point of use. So we build a solar plant on top of your municipal building or on top of your schools and directly tie into your electric service there, offsetting any kilowatt hours and energy that you're consuming from your local utility. That's one great viable option to deploy. And then in New York State, there's the remote net metering model, which is at the bottom of the page, whereby we find available property that may be a mile down the road or 10 miles across the county. As long as it's in your utility territory, we can build a project there. Solar City will interact and deal with the utility company to make sure that we can interconnect the system at that point, and then we will remotely offset any number of utility bills that the mega member has that you would like to tie to the solar facility. That's just some of the technical background. We can certainly go into more detail as individual opportunities arise. And just in closing, if you go to the next slide, this is something I'm sure you guys will go through Gordon Boyd and Mega and NISAC in terms of follow-up, and we'll certainly have resources available to take your calls. And if you go on to the next slide, here are just some photos of what these projects look like. Typically a 1 megawatt project, which is going to supply just over about 1.2 million kilowatt hours of energy, roughly needs about 5 acres of property. Or 100,000 square feet of rooftop space, whether that's consolidated or in aggregate over multiple rooftops. With that, I'll turn it back to Steve.
Let me thank Dan Leary, the Senior Project Development Manager from Solar City Corporation, and his explanation of how and why solar can be an important component to New York's renewable energy portfolio. Again, the state has set a goal of 30% of its electricity to be designated renewable, and local governments and the communities they serve can play an important part and partner in providing that electricity. I'm pleased to report that NYSERDA does in fact offer grants and incentives to help bring down the cost of these clean resources. And as Mr. Leary discussed, the New York Sun initiative established by Governor Cuomo has already added the addition of thousands of New York jobs relative to the solar initiative. The New York Sun initiative is part of New York's new way of thinking about technology, renewable energy, and the economy. It is a unique public-private partnership to expand renewable energy market in New York State while working to steadily bring down the cost of technology and build capability in New York. All of this focused on building smarter, better future for the people of New York State. In conclusion, I'd like to provide a statement from the New York State Association of Counties President, Mark R. Alger of Steuben County. Quote, MEGA's partnership with NISAC has helped dozens of New York's counties and other municipalities save on their energy costs. These two new options that you've heard today can and will help New York's local governments and their taxpayers lock in more savings and make New York a leader in renewable energy arena. NISAC is encouraging all of its members, the counties of New York and the New York municipalities, to consider these as ways to reduce costs and continue to green New York. With that said, I'd like to thank our presenters and take a few questions that have been provided here. If I may ask Gordon Boyd, the consultant to MEGA, to respond initially to these questions. The first one being, if the county signs up for a solar or hydro energy project, as was discussed here, do they have to change their agreement with their ESCO because they are buying less electricity?
Thanks, Steve. The quick answer to that question is no. The credits that a consuming county or local government would receive from the solar or hydro project will be applied as a lump sum on the utility bill. So it will really reduce the National Grid, NYSEG Utility, RG&E, whichever local utility account is in, it'll reduce that amount first. We don't see any reason to adjust the bills that or the contracts that people have with their energy supplier.
Thank you, Gordon. Second question that has been submitted is, what is the role of the local utility in this program?
Okay, that role is governed by the rules that have been promulgated by the Public Service Commission. The utility will meter the electricity that is generated by the project that might be developed by Solar City or by Gravity. They will apply the metered amounts to the accounts of the county government at the other end of the agreement, and the credit will be applied and stated monthly on their energy bill. Utility is, all of the utilities in the state were involved in this program when it was passed by the Public Service Commission. They all got on board. I'm not sure they were, completely deliriously happy about it, but they are on board and the program is moving ahead.
Thank you, Gordon. With the amount of electricity that we're generating, it remains a fraction of the total load, and I would concur with you that the utilities that are out there in the state of New York should complement this program. The third question that we have submitted is, how does a county or a local agency get started and sign up? Is it necessary for the municipality to do its own bid? Of course, they could do their own bid, or are there other options?
The first place to make contact would be either with MEGA, NYSAC, or Energy Next. And contact information can be, right up to the NYSAC offices, and then we can have a representative of either Gravity or Solar City get in touch with the customer and do some preliminary qualifying questions and answers. Generally speaking, the customer has to be at least a certain size in order to take best economic advantage of the program. So the very smallest municipalities probably would not be interested in this program, but most county governments and large cities and towns would be certainly large enough to take part. The bidding process has already been done by MEGA. We organized that bid pursuant to the New York State energy law. We allowed for piggybacking through Tompkins County, which is a provision of the county law and the general municipal law that allows any other municipality in the state to avail themselves of the terms and conditions that were arrived at through this competitive process. So it is not necessary for a municipality to go out and do their own bid. All they really need to do is contact any of the team here and ask for some qualifying interviews and a quote.
Thank you, Gordon. The next question is, what happens to the renewable energy if a storm knocks out service?
Well, if the grid is down in the local area, it's going to be down for the generators of this power, so that power would be not available. One thing that is a plus, another plus factor here, in addition to the renewable energy, the economic advantages, is that more generation is going to be placed and installed closer to some of the key energy consuming entities of local government. And this will bring, we think, an enhancement of the reliability of local distribution systems, so that whereas if a transmission line was knocked down 30 miles away and it knocked out the whole county, maybe some of the local generation would survive, and be able to make the local grid more reliable. So we think there's an advantage there too, but it will very much depend on exactly where the projects get located and which local government accounts they are serving.
With the recent fluctuation in the rate of electricity to municipalities and the citizens of New York during the winter of 2014, reliability certainly is an important function.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Gordon. The last question that I'll present to the panel here, or to Gordon, do you have to be a mega participating county in order to access these renewable energy programs?
No. Any local government entity that wishes to learn more about this and look at this as a supplement to whatever else they're doing in terms of energy procurement, we welcome the inquiries, and there's no restriction whatsoever on taking part in the Renewable program. We have reached out to a number of mega customers proactively with information about the program, but that was because they were existing mega customers. If anyone else wants to find out, we will be happy to work with them to develop a project.
Let me thank Gordon Boyd, our energy consultant to MEGA. Let me thank MEGA itself, and Daniel Leary from Solar City, Omai Elpic from Gravity Renewables, and conclude by stating this indeed presents a unique and perhaps historic opportunity to invest in renewable energy in the state of New York, and we would encourage all local governments in New York State to consider. Thank you for joining us. Good day.